Hey y'all, it's Cam.
Hey y'all, it's Desinae.
Hey, it's Jada.
Hey, it's Jay, and you're listening to 4 Deep, a podcast with 4 Black women in their 20-somethings who aren't afraid to get deep with it.
And don't forget to follow us on IG at 4DPod. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, don't forget to rate us 5 stars. And if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on your post notifications.
And after every episode, when you listen, let us know on a scale from 1 to 4 deep how 4 deep we got.
I mean,
Sure. If that's how you're feeling. If you haven't gone back and listened to episode 6, that was a real 4 deeper. That was a good
man, they saying that we got 4 deep real fast.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
On this one, too.
Yeah, we got a Spotify poll, we got comments, we got DMs. So just let us know a little something.
Yes. And speaking of 4 deep episodes, woo, today is definitely going to dig just as deep as we're talking about family and dealing with as we grow older. This is gonna be a whirlwind, so I mean, share this with your friends, share this with your family members, because we're gonna check some people and we're gonna check some hearts and some expectations too. So let's get deep, ladies.
All right, so opening up with a question for y'all today: what does family mean to you?
Funny how we talk about this, given the conversation we just had off pod. But yeah, family for me is definitely, well, first I analyze it with my folks who are blood, and the people who care for me and love on me, and uplift me, and who are just there for me, and vice versa. Whether it be family that's far that we don't get to spend a lot of time together, but it's always love, or it be family that's close that I see, every month. And that's blood. And then as far as like family outside of blood, like really, if we rocking, mi casa su casa, my house is your home. I'm blessed to have a good amount of close friends that I can call family, who I can confide in, and vice versa, and know that, anything that they're going through, they have my support. And I know it's the same the other way around. So that's family to me, my dogs, the real ones on my team, whether we got the same blood or not.
Yeah. For me, I feel like family is anybody who truly has my best interests at heart. No matter what, you know what I'm saying? Really just truly having my best interest. Because at the end of the day, like your blood, even some of your blood may not have your best interest, but you know what I'm saying? You'll know like your mom or like your dad, or you know what I'm saying, that most of your immediate family will have your best interest. So when there are friends who truly have my best interest, like no hate in their heart, you know what I'm saying? No hating, you know what I'm saying? No trying to get over on me, or like whatever the case, like truly want what's best for me and always wants me to be as informed as possible. Just having my back, that's family.
Snaps. For me, I would say family is definitely about the love that's there unconditionally, because the people that's closest to you can hurt you the most, and it might be unintentional sometimes. But as long as you are still able to love each other unconditionally through that, and we're not going anywhere, we're rocking, like that's definitely family to me. And definitely the people who, like Dad said, have your best interest at heart, especially who are willing to tell you the things that are hard to tell you, the ones that are willing to have those hard conversations, and the ones that is just like, no matter what, no matter how long or the amount of time or anything, like when we get back, like it's like nothing ever changed, and it's just like picking up where we left off. Like I love those types of relationships, and I definitely consider them like to be family. I mean, they're not gonna be, like immediate family, but they might be like, a cousin, like, oh, that's not, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So family outside of blood, like you definitely have those different levels, and you can, like, I have like people I consider aunties and cousins and brothers and sisters. And it's really like, you know, I formed a family based upon the commitments that we had to each other and the different sacrifices that I know we would make for one another. So yeah, that's definitely family to me.
I feel like y'all kind of touched on everything that I would say is what family is. But if I could add one thing on there, I think it would be people who also get what you're going through. And so that's like one way you could bring on family in different aspects as you kind of go through life. Like just knowing, just relating to like me being in dental school, I know I'm going to leave here with people who I feel like are going to be family to me, because it's like now I'm going through into my career and I know I'm always having people who I could call and talk about my day with, and they're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But then I have my friends that are family and my family that are family that I could call, who can offer different things to me in different areas of my life, who know me in different ways too. So I feel like that's also like a part of a family. And I know like people will say that too, like they'll kind of refer to jobs or different things. This is a family, like, okay, whatever. Y'all are saying that, but it really means something to be able to find people in different spaces that really end up going with you throughout your life that do become your family.
Right. That's so real. And just looking out for you, like, that's how you know, like, oh, we kind of locked in. Okay, I see you.
Right.
I love that.
So we have a quad quote for the day. And the quad quote is, toxic parents care more about how you make them look than how you actually make them feel. This one's a little confronting, but when it comes to dealing with family, especially as we grow older, we start to see them as human beings, and we start understanding different flaws, and we see them, and they're a little bit more apparent than when we were children. So understanding, you know, the difference between a healthy relationship and a toxic relationship, and understand that you can have a toxic relationship even with family members and especially with your parents, is something that is a little bit harder of appeal to swallow. And sometimes we don't want to believe those things, but we have to understand it and really see it for what it is in order to protect ourselves and to move forward in a healthy way. So when it comes to this, like, has anybody ever dealt with something like this, or has experienced it in like I guess somebody close to you that is experiencing it? And how have y'all like seen this being handled, or how have you dealt with it yourself?
I can't think of too much of like a personal experience directly, but definitely like what that can look like in like different ways. Cause it can be one way too, like where it could be a super toxic relationship. And cause if you're in a situation where your parent or another family member cares too much about how you make them look based on the things you do or how you choose to present yourself, that can get real toxic real fast. But sometimes, you know, it's not to a degree where it's, you know, terrible. You kind of, like you said, you're realizing we're all human beings. And that's a big realization I had, like, about my parents. Like, they was young like me, just like I was, like, and I'm pretty sure they're still figuring things out as they're growing. And it's kind of like, you know, it's understandable to a certain extent, you know, how, you know, just a human can be so hyper aware of like what people think of them. And, you know, we're their children. So it's kind of like, you know, we're their creations, and people are like, oh, this is a reflection of you. And so some things can be hypercritical when it comes to the things like that your children do, or even like your family members. And so it comes to a point where it's like you were saying, Jada, like, how hard are you really writing for each other? And there is a thin line between super toxic and having to create a boundary. And then, you know, being understanding and still there and rocking with them. Because sometimes it's really, you just have to sit down with a family member and be like, why? But like, why do you think like that? Or why do you care about what other people are saying? You know? Or why does it make you feel like, because of the way I act, you feel a certain type of way, or this makes you look a certain type of way, you know? And then it just starts getting into stereotypes, or caring too much about what other people think, or going back into how that person grew up. Like, even if you have a sibling, maybe they were raised differently than you. So when you do certain things, it's kind of like, you know, they see it differently. So it's a whole thing, but I think it's important that depending on the relationships that you do have, to create those boundaries. And like, you know, there's a line that there's a line with you that someone can cross where it's like, okay, this is okay. And, or it's like, okay, you went too far. This is not okay. It can't be fixed. But it's hard, especially when it's blood. Cause like, dang, like how do I navigate this? But I also say, like, you know, lean into your community, talk about them, make sure, you know, sometimes I come to y'all and be like, am I tripping or what? But yeah, it's real shaky. It could get shaky.
Yeah.
This is actually crazy that like this is the quote, because I was actually talking to my mom this past weekend, and she was telling me how like these days kids will talk about their past and kind of like talk badly about their parents and the way that they came up. But in our generation, that's just something that we would never do because we have respect for our elders. And this generation, y'all just don't care about y'all elders. And I told my mom, and I said, it's not even about having respect for your elders. It's about now we finally have resources and we have knowledge to where we know how beneficial it is to express how we really feel and to express the traumas that were put onto us that weren't our faults. It has nothing to do with that. And I also told her that everybody is not as aware of you guys' upbringing. So like for me personally, I do have some experiences like with my dad in terms of like this quote specifically. Not that it still bothers me, but when I was younger and like it really did used to bother me, yeah, I would talk about it like all the time. And I told mom now the only reason why I don't talk badly about the way that like my parents brought me up. Now I may talk about my personal experience, but I've never said that like you guys are bad parents or that, oh, I just wish you would have done better or anything like that. I just know what my experience was and what it caused me to feel like and how it's affecting me today. And so I told her everybody is not as aware. And I know that for every generation before us, it was a little bit harder. Every generation before us, it was harder. And the longer we go, the better we'll get at not passing on those traumas. But I know that y'all had it harder than I'm going to have it as a parent. I know that y'all generation didn't have as much knowledge or access to knowledge as we do. I know that y'all can only teach y'all kids what y'all were taught. And it keeps going back. Like there's less and less that we know as we go back to generations. So I don't blame anybody for anything. But my dad is one of those people who kind of likes to, he doesn't necessarily want to accept the way he impacted our childhood, me and my siblings. So if I were to tell anybody like the full truth about how I feel or about how I felt like our experience went, it's not the truth to him. That's not the reality that he has accepted yet. And so he'll, call my phone and like have me talk to people who I've never met before or like who I haven't talked to in years and who quite frankly, I don't really care about, but just so he can put this perception as to he's such a good father, or not that he's not a good father, but just like that he's been here the entire time, or that like he's had such an impact on my success per se. He gives himself a lot of credit for my success, even though he wasn't necessarily there all that time. But because he can't accept that, he's going to keep pushing that and push the way that he looks as a dad to everybody else who looks at him, even though he knows that his kids don't feel that way. And I've just learned to let him have it. I don't even know if that's fair to say that, like, oh, how I deal with it. I'll let him have it, honestly, because like I know the truth. And I also know that it hurts him too much to accept the reality of what it is. So I just let him have it. And I know personally, I just deal with that, in myself. Like sometimes you can't even, there's no way to deal with how somebody else wants to think about something or how somebody else wants to, accept something in their mind. Like I can't control anything that he does. I can't control the way he wants to, like his viewpoint on life or whatever. There's nothing I can do about that. All I could do is, be aware of the way I was impacted, be aware of the way it's making me act towards other people, take accountability for myself, and, figure out ways to heal myself and just take accountability for myself. You can't take accountability for your family and for their flaws and for their this and for this, that. And I feel like that's something that we do with our parents. Like we try to like take everything on, but you just got to let them figure that out for themselves. You cannot control them. You can't help somebody who don't want to be helped or who don't want to see it a different way.
Come on.
You gotta deal with that within yourself and make sure that you're good. Let them do whatever they're gonna do. That's their life. And you love them to death, because I love my parents to death. But they're gonna believe whatever they want to believe. And I'm gonna do whatever I gotta do to make sure I'm good. So that's how I deal.
Wow, 40.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
thank you for opening up about that. It actually reminded me of a conversation me and my cousin had when he was visiting about 2 weeks ago. And same thing, it was like interesting because he was like, so I kind of realized that, I had a messed up childhood because of my dad. And it was like, you did. And we talked
Yeah.
about it because like I remember it, and I remember being there for it, not knowing what was going on, but because you're kids. And so it was like,
Right.
when my mom would bring us over to our aunts, it was usually because she needed her because something happened. And it was just like all of us, all the kids were together, but you knew it was bad when as kids we knew what was going on. And they were always younger than me, so I knew that it was kind of like us as the older kids, we kind of like made sure that it was like extra distracting so they didn't know what was going on. But it's like, no, you really did.
Yeah.
And so he's like, he says that he actually credits like learning or like realizing what happened with his childhood and due to his parents. And like he's like, I realize there's a lot of things that my mom has responsibility for, where I understand she did it out of survival or she did it out of best interest for us, but it wasn't the best decision. She shouldn't have done that. She should have, he was like, they should have gotten divorced way before they did. And he just was opening up about a lot of things and saying that there was a relationship that he was in that helped him realize that a lot of the issues he was having as an adult were connected to what he saw and witnessed between his parents. And so he was like, he got emotional about it because he was like, it just kind of like once you realize one thing, everything else starts to come out after it. And he says it's like an overwhelming realization when you're like, oh, like, nah, they messed me up. But he's like, I'm in a better place about it, still working through things and like still. And he says it's honestly be refreshing to be able to look at what happened in that way, because when he looks at where his siblings are in the same kind of journey, whether or not they choose to kind of like, kind of walk out that journey of realization, he's also realizing like there's a lot of things that my siblings do that are problematic that they don't realize that they do. So it's like we all got kind of messed up in different ways. And so it's just a crazy experience. It really, really is.
Yeah, to deal with that, because I definitely had like a very similar thing too. Like I remember having a conversation with my dad, and like, because my mom was more of like the like the negative impact. I mean, my dad definitely had a lot too, but she definitely gave me a lot of like anti-examples, and I think I've definitely brought this up a couple times in 40 episodes. And my dad and I had a conversation, and he brought a lot of things to light, and I was just like, I remember for a couple days I just couldn't speak because I was just so in deep thought about a lot of things, and just like connecting how this in the past like is now being manifested in my actions and in my patterns and habits, and like certain things that she deals with and struggles with have been passed down to me, and how the more I try to like be not like her in certain ways, the more I am like her, because I'm running from it so hard. But dealing with it now as an adult and like understanding these things, one thing is that I think that it is really freeing to be able to call this stuff out, you know what I'm saying? But then also at the same time know why and understand the why, because like Jada was saying, they're young, they're still trying to figure stuff out, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to put myself in their shoes, like even though I know how I was negatively affected, I'm trying to put myself in their shoes, and I'm like, okay, I understand, I get it, but it still has that impact regardless if I get it or not, and I know that like my mom's trauma just comes from my grandmother's trauma, comes from her mother's trauma, and I can see how it's being passed down and how we're all just trying to do our best with what we were given. And so I definitely don't blame them. But I definitely understand the impact. I just have to like take it for what it is, and really make sure that I'm now doing better than the last generation. That's all we really can do, is to just like understand it, recognize it, and then move forward and do better. And so some of the boundaries that I would set for this relationship with my family members is really just making sure that they understand that they're them, I'm me, and we need to individually make sure that we're okay and we're not like bleeding on other people just because we're family. We need to really like bleed on each other, and that's something that I had to really understand. And so, you know, my mother's problems, I can't take those on as mine fully because I have to make sure that I'm still a full person and a full, you know, cup if I'm going to be able to help them and support them and love them in the proper way. So I can't, you know, pour all of myself out to where I'm drained just to fill her up just because she's my family member. And I feel like a lot of people do that and get caught up in a really toxic cycle of no, but they're my family, and giving so much their families to where they're dry. And I deal with a lot of that with my clients. Like they help their family out so much financially because they're the oldest, and then they have this and they have that, and all these responsibilities are falling on them. And I'm like, y'all got to set boundaries financially with your family members because they will dry you up and leave you with a dry whale for real. So yeah, it's definitely a big thing to set boundaries with your family members as you grow up and as you are stepping into your adulthood and you have more of a say so. Because before, you know, as a child, you really didn't. You just have to kind of like go with the flow. But as you step into your adulthood and you step into your own, start protecting yourself. And that's also going to protect your family members as well and help them grow. Because if they're just constantly leaning on other people, they're not going to be able to help themselves either because they're not actually getting the boundary that needs to be set in order to cut them off so that they can also probably realize something in themselves. So having those hard conversations with your family members are definitely necessary. And those boundaries are necessary as well.
And if I could say one thing about boundaries real quick, it's important to understand that when you set a boundary, it's up to you as a person to enforce your boundary. A boundary does not work when you set it and then you expect other people to meet it.
True.
Right.
It's
that came into
important.
mind.
That's important to know. You have to know that when you set a boundary, that is you following your rule for your safety, for your peace of mind, for your pockets, for whatever it is. The boundary is not for you to go around and telling your family members you need to respect my boundary, because that's not how it works.
Come on, Kim.
No, because I ain't never thought about it like that.
Me neither.
You can't tell somebody you need to respect my boundary. You have to respect your own boundaries. You can tell them what you will and will not tolerate. That's fair, but you can't give them your boundaries to, because it just don't work like that. The boundaries is for you.
That's true. Wow, I'm gonna think about that.
No, because what?
I mean, deep
wow. No, because all right, that y'all write that one down, y'all, because I never heard that one before.
Right. Come on,
Jesus, man. Okay.
Yeah, I learned that. I said, ooh. Otherwise it looks a little manipulative, and that's what you don't want to do. Because now you're just playing into the toxicity. Now you're meeting toxicity with toxicity, and that's just a cesspool.
Yeah.
And we're gonna wrap it up on that note.
Right, mic drop.
No, but what the heck? That's so real. Wow. Well, we're gonna sit on that one. We could talk about that later, y'all. Because that's a whole nother. But on this topic of toxic, relationships with family members and parents, we wanted to plug the book Queenie by it is not up here.
Candace,
but it's
Candace
Williams. I can't give you her last name is hyphenated, but I could give you Candace Williams.
Yeah, Queenie. It's an orange book. It's by a Black woman. And it gets into all of this.
Yes.
We ain't got time to go into the details because that again, that's also a whole nother. But read Queenie if you want to go through a story of a Black woman who's going through similar struggles as us with her family and a whole bunch of other stuff. Because Queenie be going through and herself.
No,
and her job. And her lifestyle.
Yeah,
Queenie was good. Queenie was good.
I would say look it up because it definitely do. I feel like it do come with some trigger warnings, so look it up before you commit to it. Yes, but it was a good read. It was heavy for a lot of people, but I thought it was a good one.
It was definitely
yeah. So next, since we're on the topic of family, I know we were talking about family that's blood, family that's water. And I kind of wanted to get into that quote because a lot of people tend to say, blood is thicker than water. And I was trying to find something that like explain like, okay, blood is thicker than water, but sometimes, water be doing its thing. And on the search for that, I found a quote that said, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb." And basically, the blood isn't your family in this sense. The water is. So the water of the womb is, of course, what you were born into, your family. But sometimes the blood of the covenant, which is your folks, your people who got your back, is thicker than that. And the blood that's represented, that's not always talking about the blood of your family. Because as we know, that's not, we can say a lot of family members that we consider as family that do not be coming through. So I think this quote was just a testament to value the people who are actually part of your covenant, your village, your people, your squad, your quad pod. Value them because that blood is definitely thicker than a lot of the things that helped you and carried you in that womb. Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to help you value, like we said, we can't always lean on but they're family, but you gotta, like, no, you need to be pouring into the relationships that pour back into you. And now that we're older, there's no excuses to lean on that passive, like, oh, it's just the way I grew up, or oh, like, nah, it's time to lock in and be for real. And like Cam was saying, set them boundaries with ourselves. So I'm gonna leave y'all with that quote to give y'all some insight on the relationships we have, and that we're not forced to stay in anything. We're now at the point where it's our decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's real. What was that that quote that we had read earlier about, like, we got to stop saying, oh, but it's your mom, but it's your dad, as an excuse for the mistreatment and the toxicity. Just because it's them and just because they have that title doesn't make it right, and it doesn't make it permissible. Like, you can still call them out in a respectful manner, but you can still call them out. You can still set that boundary. You can still protect yourself from it. You don't have to just like accept it because they have that title and that connection, that family tie. You know what I'm saying? You can still cut people off, and you can still have people in a distance and at arm's reach. Like, you do not have to have them close to you just because they have a title at all. So
I have a perfect example of water of the womb. I have an auntie. We're not blood related, you know what I'm saying? But that's my auntie, definitely my auntie for life. And she is my favorite auntie. I don't care to say it. I don't care who see it. You know what I'm saying? Behind that. You know what I'm saying? Out of all the aunties that I have, blood or not, she's my favorite auntie. And it's because she's so pure at heart. She's always had our backs. Like, she'll take care of me and my siblings like we're her own kids. I said she treats everybody like their own. And she's had a huge impact on my life, like a huge impact on my life. She took part in raising us. And that just goes to show, like, this woman is not, like, she's not blood related, like, she's just a pure good woman. And I love her to death. Shout out to my auntie Maylee, because she may be watching. But she's my fave, and you know what I'm saying, I love her to death.
Wow, you got me wanting to text my auntie.
Right.
Right.
Because
we all got an auntie like that.
Right. They be coming through. Like, it's just crazy because we of course got our aunties that are blood. It's all love. But it's the fact that our non-blood aunties, like, we are not related, and they really do be coming through. So shout out to them. Shout out to them.
And do y'all ever think about how we're becoming the non-blood aunties?
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Yes.
For sure. TTJ? Yes, that's me.
Yeah, and that's the empowering thing about these realizations, when you start to think about, like, your childhood, the way you were growing up, the relationship with your parents. Like, it's scary to have to be like, okay, things have to change, and I have to have conversations that I normally wouldn't have, or I have to not see people or contact people as much, or whatever it is that you have to change in order to kind of work through and process the trauma, the things that you've been through. But it's so empowering to be able to say you get to choose that now. Like, you don't have to be subjected to it the way you were in your childhood. You have control and you get to bring in more people in your life who won't add to that, but who will empower you and like support you and love on you in those areas and ways that you need it, in those areas that kind of were left raw, you know, and scarred and everything from the things that you've been through in the past too. So yeah.
Okay, I guess we're gonna take it lighter. We got a question for y'all. We're gonna do a would you rather, a 4D would you rather. And yes, it's gonna be family related, and it ain't easy to answer. So okay. All right. So would you rather live with your mama for the rest of your life, or only be able to communicate with her through FaceTime for the rest of your life?
I'm gonna go first, and I'm gonna have to say I'm gonna have to live with her for the rest of my life. Like, I'm sorry, but then my mama hug, like, I can't go without a hug. Like, that's something different. And honestly, living together, girl, like, you could be in the back. You could be in the back. We have separate places. We could be different wings of the house. You know, maybe I'm rich at this point. You know, but I pick live with my mother for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to live with my mommy for the rest of my life. Honestly, I get homesick as it is. I'm already struggling, like with them being in Lancaster, me being out here. I just be missing her a lot. And like we talk every day. That's really my road dog. Like I can't go out seeing my ma. So whatever the situation, you just have to, you feel me, figure it out, work it out. Definitely though, I'm not gonna see you every day. You know what I'm saying? Gotta learn how to get out the house, and you know what I'm saying? There's ways to work around that, but I can't go to my mama.
For me, I feel like now that I'm out here in Virginia and like that's all that I have is FaceTime, it's not that bad. I mean, I FaceTime her like almost once a day. So we talk very often. And it makes me not feel the distance. And like honestly, the relationship that we have, you know, I'm not gonna lie, like I was trying to get away from her. In the physical sense, because like if I'm ever like around her and really close, I just felt like it was like keeping me stagnant or bringing me down or just like reminding me of a lot of stuff that I just couldn't be around physically. So I feel like having that FaceTime call is something that it puts the space in the, and, you know, and it puts that boundary for me to be like, you know, I can hang up, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I can choose when I want to call. So, I mean, while it would be pretty hard to like never see her in person again and never be able to like, you know, have that physical interaction, I hate to say it, but like FaceTime does enough for me.
Shout out to that man.
That's okay. And that's okay.
Now you gotta weigh the pros and cons, girl.
Oh, but if it was my dad, he's right here. Like, you're living with me. I'm sorry. Like, you're coming. Come on. Because you're not about to be on FaceTime for the rest of my life. No, I do that already too much. Now you're coming with me.
Okay.
Oh, child. See, it was hard for me to pick because I'm like, I cannot live with my parents for the rest of my life. I can't. I love my parents, but I think that like in my adulthood since graduating college, our relationship has gotten better with the distance, but being this far for this long has been very difficult. And so it's like, ooh, I can't pick. I know I need to pick. I need to pick. But it's like I literally can't.
Need to pick.
So if I had to pick, I guess I would choose live, but I would have to put them out back. I'd be laughing at my mom all the time. I tell her she can't live with me. Like, we've already talked about this. And she was like, what if I get old? And I was like, okay, girl, but you got one chance. You getting put out. I'm going to put you up in a home. You're going to get put up.
Hey, no, you're not.
I said, I'll find you. I said, I will find you a nice one. I'll find you a nice one at the water, at the beach. We will make sure that I will come visit you all the time.
Yeah.
We make jokes because her mom, she lived with us and we took care of her. She had dementia and she was off the chain. So she was like, I'm going to act like her. And I said, yeah, you're going to get put up.
See?
But yeah, I guess I would pick live with my mom. I would pick live with my mom.
Wow.
She could have a little casita in the backyard.
Yeah, well, that wraps up our topic about
That's a
our
great
episode about family.
Yeah.
Yeah, what would y'all rate it?
That's a 4D.
That's a 4D. Yeah.
That was deep.
That was real deep.
I mean, we got into it. Y'all, when I saw the topic of this episode, I said, oh, forgot about this one.
Like we picked a doozy.
Hit us with a right hook. It was definitely needed.
And this was actually I remember this being a suggestion for from one of our listeners. So shout out to you. I hope you are listening to this episode and I hope it has helped you in some way.
Yeah. Well, all right. That wraps it up. Y'all know what to do. Subscribe, like, if you listen on Spotify, stars, Apple Podcasts, stars, and comment. Show some love, please. Please.
We want to hear from y'all. Come on.
Yeah.
Y'all been seeing that TikTok when they be like doing the little SpongeBob audio and they be begging and they be like how I feel when I'm people to buy from my business or something.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Spare change.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yes. Y'all got me feeling like that, okay?
Spare comments. Well, we'll see y'all next week. Yeah. We hope to see some comments from y'all by then, okay?
All right.